This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. It is Petri here with you until 1 o'clock. And just a reminder that Amy Fisher joins us at midnight. No, at the top of the hour, sorry. I'm getting overexcited because I'm going to talk about a man now that I totally am in love with, and I have been since I was a child. I just think that he is an extraordinary human being, and this week marks his life on this planet at 100 years. That's on Friday. For over 7 decades, the veteran broadcaster has served as the primary witness to the wonders and the fragility of our natural world. From his pioneering early days at the BBC to his recent urgent calls for environmental action, David Attenborough has transitioned from a curious naturalist to a global moral compass. The legendary career redefined documentary making. I mean, that voice to bridge the gap between complex science and the public. And he's turned so many kids like me into a fascination with the natural world. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Tony Lee Morrell, who is a documentary filmmaker and the author of the documentary filmmaker and author of the upcoming biography Attenborough, Our Planet, His Voice. What a brilliant title. Good to meet you, Tony. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. I learned something today about the man that I've been in love with my whole life, and that is that he was an executive at the BBC.
Oh, absolutely, yes, in the 1960s, after a career as a broadcaster, and as you probably know, he started as a trainee at the BBC in the early 50s, and he worked himself up through broadcasting as a presenter, most famously on Zoo Quest. And then in the mid-60s, he became a channel controller of BBC Two, quite extraordinary, and was very instrumental in commissioning some landmark productions such as
Monty Python.
Kenneth Clark's Civilization, Jacob Bronowski's The Ascent of Man, yeah.
I mean, the man who brought us Monty Python's Flying Circus is extraordinary. But he was always into nature. He was always fascinated. He grew up in Leicestershire, and his father was an academic at the local university. So he was brought up around very smart people, but he was fascinated on getting on his bike and just going out into the countryside. What was he doing there?
Yes, that was one of my favourite parts of researching his biography, his childhood in Leicester. As you said, his father, Frederick, was a principal at the Leicester College there. And he was the middle of 3 brothers, most famously Richard Attenborough was his older brother. And he would spend a lot of time in the limestone quarries because Leicester was built on this great foundation of Jurassic bed. And that's where he really fell in love with fossils and would go collecting. But I also found out a wonderful story because at the Leicester Zoology Department, there was a pond outside and he would collect the newts and sell them to the staff. So very entrepreneurial, even at that young age. I think it was like 10 years old. But that's where his fascination started, in the quarries, in the back gardens and the college campuses.
And he never, ever lost his love for that. It must have been particularly frustrating for this man that we've grown to know to be a pencil pusher, to be, even if at the BBC, to be, in that sort of role rather than, digging around for fossils and looking at interesting creatures. It must have been frustrating.
It was, and I have a whole chapter on his broadcasting career at the BBC where it's called the View from the 6th Floor, when he's, right up at the top of the hierarchy, and he was offered the Director General job, which he didn't really want to do. That, as you said, more kind of paper shuffling and the politics, and he was really yearning to go back into the field, having done all those years on Zoo Quest. And he came back with series like Eastwoods with Attenborough, and that obviously led on to his huge and most famous landmark, Life on Earth.
How did that happen for him, Life on Earth? I mean, was he just that so natural when he talked about the natural world that they couldn't wait to sign him up? Or did he have to go and beg and say, look, I've got this great idea?
I certainly don't think he had to beg, because he was very much, even though he was based in London as controller of BBC Two at the time, and then he was very much talking to the BBC Natural History Unit in Bristol, which is, very famous
Yeah.
institution and part of the BBC. So he knew what they were doing. And because of series, he was working with producers such as Richard Brock, a very famous producer. He worked with Eastwood with Attenborough, and then on The Living Planet. So he seemed like an ideal figure because of his background in broadcasting, his just passion for natural history, and obviously his just awareness of the huge mechanics that goes into making these landmark series such as Civilization or The Ascent of Man. So I think he was a natural choice for it.
And he just had this mesmerizing way of talking, of speaking, that even if you were the greatest biologist in the world sitting next to a child, both would understand. You didn't talk down to the very brilliant, and he didn't exclude the very ignorant. I mean, that's a real skill to be able to do that.
It is, and the title, Our Planet, His Voice. I actually investigated that. I really wanted to know where did he get his diction from, his
Yeah.
tones. And actually, Richard Attenborough is a clue there, because Richard would stage plays in Leicester, and he would recruit David to become part of his kind of repertory theatre, even though David had no interest later on in becoming an actor or in plays. But as a young man or as a teenager, he trained theatrically with Richard, and obviously learnt his kind of diction and at the Leicester Zoology, at the museum, and his enthusiasm for animals. So that's a really good link with his brother, I think.
Yeah, it is. But he also had a way of simplifying quite complex issues and making you go along with him. Was he scripted? Did he have this incredible encyclopedic knowledge of what he was talking about, or did he need to just learn that as he went along?
Well, he has a great memory and a fondness of books. So he then went to Clare College at Cambridge and read The Naturalists, as he had done as a child, Alfred Russel Wallace, and Charles Darwin, obviously. So he was very much trained at Cambridge as well. So that encyclopedic knowledge and that enthusiasm and curiosity, which he also learned at Leicester Museum, he spent a lot of his childhood there as well.
Again, with him travelling all around the world, I mean, this was a new form of documentary making, right, where the presenter could be seen, where he was engaging with the animals. One of the most famous ones was when he was cuddled by a gorilla, which I understand only recently found out that they had to smuggle that out of the footage of that out of the country. They nearly had it taken off them. But there's so much about his personality that came through with his documentary making, and that was really seminal. That was a real change in the way these very dry documentaries would often be delivered.
Yes, certainly. I mean, he was very immersive, even in ZooQuest in the early 50s. The idea was to take that studio experience into the field, because previous to that, in series such as Animal Patterns, very much like Animal Magic later on, the zoologist Jack Lester, who was from London Zoo, would bring animals into the studio, and they were trying to think of ways to bring the public out into the wild, out into the jungles or to the savannah. And he certainly heralded that as a broadcaster.
We have a photograph of you, I think we want to show, of you as a young man working with Sir David, and a dedication that you've done. So that's you there, is it?
It is, yes. I was extremely fortunate. I did my degree in zoology in the early 90s, and my first job in television was researching for David Attenborough.
Wow.
On the private life of plants.
That's
so it doesn't get much better than that.
Oh, and
that's a signed copy of the book, because I sent him to Japan. He loved Japan, loves Japanese antiquities. And we found a story of a 2,000-year-old seed of Magnolia cobus, which is a rare orchid, which then germinated.
Oh, I mean,
so,
it's such a wonderful thing. And look, your book's coming out, the biography of Attenborough, Our Planet, His Voice. Thank you, Tony Lee Morrell, for joining me.